All right, and we're back with what we have been playing.
And a
So,
lot.
Ghost been on a lot. So, Ghost
Been
of
a lot.
Yotei, Ralph and I have had more and more time with that than we had
Yes.
last time. I'm not finished yet because I keep getting distracted by every single goddamn thing. I've only killed 2 of the 6,
Okay.
and one of them you
That's a
kill in the
good
first 10
chunk
minutes.
into it though. Did you
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
the
I keep
Oni first?
I did the Kitsune,
You did the
and
Kitsune first. Okay.
I do not recommend doing that. Um,
Okay, tell me why. Interesting.
well,
Can
because
you say it
apparently
without spoiling it?
when you get, I think if you do the Oni, you get access to one of the weapons that will help you more.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah.
I was doing a lot of fighting against people with a certain weapon that I didn't have the counter to,
Right. Sure.
and so I think I could have made it a lot easier on myself, but I did not.
Yep.
I'm an idiot.
Yep. Yep.
Don't
Yep.
be like me.
Yeah, I think though the Oni thing is actually good advice because I mean, to me, that quest line introduced one of the only interesting
Agreed.
characters in the game.
Yep.
So you're gonna want to get that guy.
Yeah. Totally agree. And then it kind of really low key sucks that he's like entirely parked for the next chapter while you do
Oh
that
yeah,
Kitsune.
totally
And
gone. You're like,
I'm
wait.
like, it'd be nice if he was around for this, And I think that's funny enough. One of the things that when we interviewed the game's directors, we asked them, we're like, is this going to have a linear story, like a specific order you need to kill them in, or not?
Mm.
Because I was kind of worried that, like, in that freeform structure where you choose the order, that, you can't tell a consistent narrative that builds characters. And they're like, no, 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 you have to kill them in a specific order. And that wasn't quite true. Like, it is true after the Kitsune and the Oni, right? It does
Mm.
Yeah.
take on its own order. But that choice there is a choice, and it's an important one. And I do think that, one of those chapters is a hell of a lot stronger than the other. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And I do think that the
Yeah.
character that you meet in the Oni storyline, if he was like into that, if he was brought into that the Kitsune storyline, it would have been a much stronger storyline. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they do some of that rebuilding work after that. Like, they kind of combine those characters in their own way, and some of
Yeah.
that tension happens. But I definitely remember thinking that back there, like when I was playing through it. So,
Which
Okay.
is interesting just because you finally finished it, you put out a video and you articulated very well kind of how I was feeling about the game, like what I
mm,
kind of struggled to describe. And it was essentially what we touched upon a little bit last week, which it was like it's more. Is it as
yes.
good? Does it tell as good of a
Mm.
story? No. Like where were you with Ghost of Tsushima, the original though, story wise?
Oh yeah, I
Did you
was
love
always
that?
like, no, I didn't. I was like, it's
Really?
okay. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
enjoyed it. Don't get
Mm.
me wrong. Like, I was like, there's enough here to, like, get it over the line. And there's, there were different elements of it that I liked and didn't like. But I was like, look, overall, this is pretty good. I definitely didn't love Jin. I thought he was kind of, a lot of people really hold a candle for Jin. They're like, oh, he was so good or whatever. So I'm like, I kind of feel like he was one of the weakest main characters that Sony's like put into their first party games. I think there was so much more that they could have done with him. I get why he was very restrained in terms of like his code of honor and whatever else, but it just, I don't know, he didn't really click with me personally. I didn't love him. So, but well, it sounds
Okay.
like you were actually a big fan of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my problem with this one is that the
Okay.
story in Tsushima, yeah, it starts kind of slow and Jin is kind of flat, but by the end, I had cared so much about him and his
Mm,
I believe it was his uncle,
yep.
him and his uncle's conflict that like
Mm.
I felt it, like I felt the emotion, and I almost like got a little like choked up at some of the
Mm,
performances, which
mm.
doesn't happen in a lot of games, and I loved it for that, and I was hoping to get that here,
Mm.
especially with how excited they seem to be about telling a story once again.
Mm.
Yep.
And I didn't really get it because it was a pretty predictable kind of revenge thing. I was like,
I
oh, I
think
wonder what
that's
the message around revenge is going to be. You know?
Yeah, I think yeah. So obviously, I put up my review and I got a lot of feedback on it. A lot of people disagree, which obviously I'm really glad about that. As I really try and go out of my way to be like, it's good that people have different opinions on games.
Yeah.
I don't have a monopoly on truth or whatever. It's cool that so many people disagree with me about this game. Like, that's it. And my reviews are only ever like what I think about them. It's never like, here's
Mm.
the objective truth or whatever. It's just like, here's my take, right?
God no.
But
Yeah.
we'll come back to that though, because I do want to talk about that some more, right? But but yeah, definitely one thing that came back was like the story. It's definitely resonating with a lot of people. A lot of people really love
Mm.
the story of Atsu and her revenge and her betrayal and like a portrayal, excuse me, not betrayal. And I understand why, because I think Erika Ishii does give a good performance as Atsu. Like I do feel her, I feel more coming from her than I felt from Jin, for example. Absolutely. And I just think it's a bit of a shame that I think she as a character is wasted on what is a pretty just ho hum revenge story with like some really predictable moments and twists and whatever else. And there's nothing around that story either. Cause like Jin was kind of a bit boring and it had the whole like samurai honor thing, whatever it was, whatever. But there was obviously like the Mongol invasion going on around it. It created like a
Yeah.
broad historical backdrop that you could really sink your teeth into. If that part of the plot wasn't working for you, there was this other part that you could really go to. Whereas Yotei is just like, no, it's just this. There's nothing else. Like there's nothing else. And and I guess if that plot is clicking with you, it's going to work. But if it's not, there's nothing else that, as I said, you can look to sort of go, well, okay, I'll focus on this other part of the story or these other characters or whatever else. So I think that's the way it is with storytelling, and I've really kind of made my peace with that over the years when it comes to video game stories, in the sense that it's super subjective, right? We can all
Yeah.
agree that the world design of Ghost of Yotei and Ghost of Tsushima is really good world design. Whether or not it's new or fresh here in Yotei is another story, but it's good, and we can all agree that the combat is really good.
Mm.
Storytelling, though, is always super subjective, and I know that a lot of the time I just don't enjoy video game stories in AAA games. I don't know. I find that a lot. And this was definitely one of those times where I was like, and it really lets it down for me. Cause like, had I enjoyed the story of Yotei, I probably would have been like, okay, I'm bummed out that there's not much innovation here, but the
Yeah.
story carried the day, and I'd be like, all right, it's enough for me to keep going. But without that story, then I just start focusing on the fact that I've already played a lot of this open world before. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was another point that came back in the I don't know. Sorry, Lucy. I don't know if you have any reflections on the story that you've experienced. Are you invested in like Atsu's journey so far and the characters and that plot? Is it enough for you or are you feeling like where are you at with it?
So for me, I'm enjoying it. I think it is predictable, but I think
Mm,
my overall feeling about the whole game is that it is comforting in its
yes.
familiarity,
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
in that I haven't been surprised. I feel like I know where things are going. I really enjoy the approach to open world design. Like I said, I am constantly distracted by something. I can never actually get to the things that I'm supposed to be doing or the things that I set a marker for, because I'm constantly distracted, because I feel that everything that I do, every path that I do follow, I am adequately rewarded for. And it is weirdly a comfort game. I don't know if it's
mm,
because I played Tsushima at the height of the pandemic and I got really into that game. I platinumed it.
mm.
And with this, it's like it feels so familiar. Even down to some animations or the funny odd ways that some NPCs will talk to you, or UI elements. There's this familiarity there that I find really comforting. And so for the story for me is that yes, it's predictable. Yes, as per Simon Cardy's piece in IGN, it is very much a theme for Sony first party games, is that revenge story. Yes, unfortunately it is also very similar to what Assassin's Creed Shadows went for,
Yes.
but I don't mind that.
Sure.
I don't mind that. I think there have been some little fun characters along the way. I really enjoy the way that Atsu softens at times,
Mm,
and
mm.
I think there are these layers to her. And I think Jin had that too, right? I think Jin was maybe a little more friendly with people, and he formed those relationships with people. Whereas Atsu, she's she takes longer to warm up.
Yeah.
But then I do really enjoy the montages with each of the masters who teach
I
you a
agree.
new
That was a
Yeah, that
technique.
was
highlight.
good.
Mm,
Um, and
totally agree.
so is it changing everything? No. But I mean, Jake, you said it last time. It's a straightforward sequel. I think I would phrase it as it is a comforting sequel that I'm enjoying playing.
I will
Yeah.
I will I will agree with that because yeah, because I ultimately had similar problems, but I enjoyed it and I
Mm,
recommended it with with caveats. But yeah,
Mm.
uh, I think for me, it was also the pace at which I played it. I played it
Okay.
very
Mm,
slowly,
Oh, did you? Okay, interesting.
for the most part, yeah, and, it was kind of that comfort game where I would
Yeah.
just vibe out, hear the wind blow, chase some birds, find a fox, do a thing, kill some
Yeah, yeah.
men, and it's fun. I think it still has that fun factor, and, yeah, for me, it was definitely that more like, okay, like, I did want more. I wanted
Mm, mm,
more with more new stuff,
mm.
but ultimately, I was someone who yeah, also like 100%ed Tsushima, played the expansion, the Iki Island, really enjoyed that, and then even was into Legends for like a second.
mm.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So like
Legends
I'm
is fun.
into
This is hell
I
yeah.
was like into it regardless, essentially,
Yeah,
even with
yeah,
my
yeah.
issues with the game.
Mm,
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, I my video, in case anyone hasn't watched it, I'm like, I think the general thesis of that video was like, this is the same, even though it's got some differences. It's the same game ultimately, but I think with a worse story. And people disagree on that. And
Mhm.
people also disagree on the world on when I say it's the same. And they say, well, no, the world design actually is better this time. They say it flows more seamlessly, that it manages to tell that story more more yeah, like the story just sort of falls out of it more naturally rather than being
It
kind
is
of like
interesting how it funnels you. Yeah.
yeah.
sure. Yeah, and I actually agree with that. I do think it tells that story better, in terms of it does flow more smoothly. Um, but I personally am just so interested in this idea that people think that this feels quite different in terms of the world design and the experience. Like, was that your experience? Does this feel manifestly different to you as you explore this world and do these side activities? Or does it actually kind of feel the same despite the fact that there are these cosmetic differences, new activities, or the new ways they're served up to you? Like, how did you feel about
Mm.
that?
I'm trying to think how they were presented. How did they do it in the first one?
This is the thing. I kind of feel like they did the same thing, but I think
Yeah.
what
Well,
I,
they
I
didn't
read
have the
from a
spyglass and all that, but they had
no. But I think with the
I
maps, for
forget.
example, that's a new feature where you buy the maps and you put them on, right? That's
Oh,
one
I
thing.
like
Yeah.
that. I like that shit. I love a little
Sure.
tactile,
And I
like a
think there
little
was less of like you
little
just
puzzle
see
box.
a guy coming up to you in the one you're riding around or you see
Mm.
something happening. I think there was less of that in Tsushima. So but I don't know, like but I think the fact that we're kind of having this conversation, do you guys really
It
does anything stand out to you as being like, no, this part is actually quite different?
I would say, more densely packed, yeah.
Okay.
I would
Mm.
say that.
Yeah.
I would also say, yeah, how it's structured and how you can funnel yourself to an area. Like, it's a lot of funnels that serve to the next biome, to the next
Mm.
area, and it does a it was just such a weird, maybe it was, like, the way the map looks when you view it, but it did a good job of, like, isolating you into these separate sections
Mm, mm, mm.
Mm.
where it felt like you journeyed really far, even if you're fast traveling around. I'm stumbling through my point here, but to me, it did feel different in
Okay.
terms of
A
yeah,
lot more
but
puzzles in this
But
one.
so again, just to drill down into that, it felt different because of the sort of map layout and configuration and density. Is that what you were
yes,
sort of right? Okay,
yeah, thank you,
okay,
thank
okay.
you.
No, no, no. I was
But
curious.
interestingly enough, though, one kind of drawback to that I naturally noticed is that compared to Tsushima, like Tsushima, when you're like 100%ing it, you're looking at the map, you're fast traveling around. But I remember playing Tsushima, not really opening up the map and clicking on stuff constantly.
Mm,
Mm.
mm,
In
mm.
this one, I found myself using the map and tracking the cards and moving, and I
Sure.
found doing that a lot more. And that
Mm.
to me kind of actually was a back step from the first game, where the
Okay.
concept of the wind was to keep you guided and not looking at maps and looking at
Mhm.
objectives and stuff, keeping it
Mm.
very simple. Where
Interesting.
this time around, while there was more to do, and I like that, the fact that I was treating it more like a traditional game that didn't rethink this formula. And I'm okay, click on that, now go here. Okay, click on this card, now go here. Pause map, look at map. Like that. That to me was a little bit of a
Mm.
step back.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm.
Interesting. I think one of the biggest, because like we're all learning as we do this job, right? And that's another
Yeah.
thing
Mm.
that we don't really talk about, like how we learn and evolve as we like review video games and get feedback from our audiences. We kind of just internalize it, and it's just like inside baseball stuff. But like definitely one thing I learned from this review cycle was there was a comment that, it was a very common comment, which is kind of like,
Mm.
"Hey man, you play all of these games, and we don't, right? And
Mm.
so, you know, of course, if you play all of these games, you are very likely to get burned out on them or
Mhm.
to fixate on the sort of how similar they are, or how they don't innovate or whatever else. But me personally, I only buy 1 or 2 games a year, and for me, Ghosts of Yotei is amazing because I haven't played one of these types of games in a really long time, and this is a really good version of that
Mm.
type of game. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that is a really good, insightful way to frame this. Cause like the truth is, we do play all of these things all the time. And we do have this kind of lens where we're sort of comparing things all the time. And we're sort of, and we're also playing a lot of them, putting a lot of hours into them, and we're and the frustrations that might emerge from having to play games in that way kind of manifest subtly, but you can feel them and whatever else. So I really heard that and I was like, okay. But it also made me alive to another challenge, which is like, well, in part, I also do review games for people who I imagine are like myself, who do play everything. Because just because like you're not a games reviewer doesn't mean that you're not playing most of the things. And I know certainly a
Mm.
lot of my audience are playing a lot of the things, right? So I
Right.
think that portion of the audience is, maybe we're aligned in the way we view things, but we do kind of want that innovation. We are buying more games than just 2 or 3 a year. Do you know what I mean? I also
Mm.
think
Yeah.
about the fact that, well, what's the job of a review? And it's kind of like, is it to advise people on a purchase based upon like objective metrics or whatever? And obviously, the word objective with reviews is dumb, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Or
Mm.
is it like, here's just what I think about a game, and then you can
Mm.
make your own decision based on that? And I think the way we all do it, like all of us on this podcast, we kind of straddle that line, right? We have our own personal preferences and we talk about things, and,
Yeah.
and we drive from our own personal perspective, but we're also trying to impart something, a bit more objective, and we're trying to put ourselves in other people's shoes and kind of go,
Yeah.
hey, listen, if you like this thing, maybe you might like it, even though I don't.
Mm.
And I think as I look back on my Yotei review, I probably didn't get the balance quite right of focusing enough on that perspective, right?
Mm.
Because I always try and do it. And I did try and do it a little bit in that review where I was like, hey, listen, this is the same game. It's the same recommendation as, as Shadows. It's a good game and you'll enjoy it if you want this sort of thing. But for me personally, it's this, right? I just don't think I kind of communicated that well, or the balance wasn't right. And so people very much felt like, hey, man, you're not speaking to me here as someone who only buys 2 to 3 games a year. You're only speaking to your own perspective. And I don't know. I just reflect on that a lot as I go through this process. So anyway, that's my kind
Mm.
of learning out of
Yeah.
this. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that, and that kind of challenge
Damn.
in the way you approach it.
Yeah. I think it's good that you're thinking like that, but
Mhm.
also you don't want to be too
Yeah,
pressed by folks one way or another, because I've
for sure.
found that I've I've done that in the past, and I ultimately haven't been too happy with it or how I get things across, and revert back to like how I
Totally
typically
agree.
talk about games. The only example I can think of is uh oh no. I So for the longest time I would talk about games in, like, when I'd put out a video, I would talk about it in a complete bubble, essentially. Like, I'd make
Mm,
Mhm.
the video with the intention where maybe you're watching this 2 years from now.
Mhm.
It should feel the same, and I shouldn't be talking about like a current event thing with the game and blah 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 blah. And also pricing was part of that, where I
Mm.
didn't talk about like, oh, well, it's 2 hours, but it's
yes.
$30. And I never got caught up in that, because I was very much like, no, is it worth playing or not? Because people are going to get different economies, different price points, different sales, whatever. The reality is, yeah, I know not a lot of people like, not, I know there are plenty of people watching that also don't run out and buy a game day one. So I try to
Mm,
talk
mm,
past
absolutely.
that. But then I guess, like, as conditions changed, games got more expensive. I had some people really pushing me, being like, "Yeah, but you didn't mention that it's $60. You should
Mm,
really talk about that and the price
Mm.
per hour ratio." So I would start to shoehorn that in, and
Mhm.
it kind of always felt awkward because it wasn't how I like criticized or talked about games.
yeah.
Mhm.
With that one, I've kind of found a balance, and I just go off of like when I feel like it's relevant, because ultimately that's still how I talk about games. I go by feel.
Mm,
If a
Yeah.
game is great and I have no reason to talk about the graphics other than that, yeah, they're good, then I'm not going to do a whole category or
Mm.
paragraph dedicated to graphics or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Great.
yeah. So for me, that's definitely that. But also, it's funny you mentioned your example with this video. For me, it was with, so I've been in my bitching about Assassin's Creed era
Yeah.
since these new Assassin's Creed games.
Sure.
And I've always gotten feedback about that with people a similar sentiment to you. But it was just people who just love these big open
Yeah.
Mhm.
world Assassin's Creed games that I can't
Absolutely.
connect to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was someone being like, "Hey, I never played the old Assassin's Creed games, dude. I'm 20 years old. Shut up. These are awesome." And they give me a lot of bang for my buck. Or you have
Mm.
someone where it's like, "Yeah, I only play one massive RPG every, so Assassin's Creed is the one for me."
That's
So
it.
yeah, I get those other perspectives, and it did make me go, "Yeah, damn, like it's not about me." Like it has to be about you. It's
Mm.
your
Yeah,
opinion,
that's the thing,
but
but
in
it
a
is though.
way,
It's both. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying. It's both,
Mm.
right?
right?
Yeah,
No, it absolutely is,
Schrodinger's opinion.
and I think that but like I think that's the trap that you can fall into because if you try and make these reviews so that they're like product reviews of like an iPhone or whatever, right? It's like, does this thing work and does it have this feature? And I tested
Mhm.
that, and it's kind of very objective. Well, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but I also think that the kind of criticism I look for, right? And this is me personally. I'm not remotely interested in a review that kind of breaks down a game into 5 categories and scores them. And I just tell me what you think, man. And then I'm going to like agree or disagree. And that's it. And I'm interested to interface with the opinion of someone who's interested like to present a perspective and they want to
Mm.
argue it. And that's useful to me because I don't
yes,
need you to make a decision for me about whether the graphics are good because I can see that they're good or
Mhm.
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I don't need you to describe the open world to me in great detail. I'm interested in just what you think about it because that's the touch point, right? But I know not
yeah,
everyone's the same, and they do want
yeah,
those other types of reviews where they're like, no, just break it down, give me the facts. And there are certainly some other reviewers that I watch where they have that style, and it really
yeah.
resonates with their audiences for that reason
Mm.
because their audiences love that stuff, you know. So I don't know,
That's
lose.
that's what I
Sorry.
love though about games, right? Because it's like there are those angles for those different types of reviews. There are
Yeah,
also types of different gamers that go for those types of reviews, and it's like video games are weird like that. You can't really
Mm.
put them into a thing,
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
how people think video games are products.
yeah.
Some
Mhm.
people think they are toys. Some people think they are art. Plenty of those things intersect, and people love
Mm.
to kind of debate that. So, like, you have that. So, yeah, of course, reviews are going to be, like a CNET vacuum
Yeah,
review
yeah,
or a think piece that's interesting and
Mhm.
makes you think about a game or process a game in a different way. Like, so I just, that's why I love this because there
Yeah.
is room for both and it makes
yeah.
it less boring. It's way more exciting and
I
weird because
agree.
there's so much nuance. There's so many different types of
Mm.
gamers. Sorry, I just went off on like a tangent, but
Yeah, no, I
No,
agree.
I love it. Yeah.
How do you approach this, Luce?
I don't review.
Well,
I
I mean,
don't
you
have
talk about
to, I
games
mean,
about on
I
this
talk
podcast,
about
though.
games.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that I am blessed with the fact that my outlet for reviewing is a conversation where I
I
can
say, sure.
be more nuanced. I can
Yeah.
bounce things off you. I can share my experience with you two, and if we have a guest or even people in the comments who um, listen and have an opinion that, or they, because yeah, I do read the comments. Everyone's very nice. I do appreciate it. But
And the
I
they're nice
podcast,
to
they're
you.
nice. That's right.
I was gonna say the
You should
podcast
go
is
to a
nice.
Game Ranks video or a Skill Up video. That's right.
Hey, I'm on
A different
GameSpot, man.
story.
Like,
Yeah.
True,
but
true, true.
I think because I used to review when I was at Jinx, but that was a TV channel, so we didn't have comments. It was TV. I reviewed Persona 5, and I loved the experience, but I got kind of burnt out on it, and so I don't know how you two do it week in, week out. Um, but I think the way, to Jake's point, is there are so many nuances and so many things to tap into, so many things to discuss, that I think if I had to do I don't know, if I think I just had to review and think about my own opinion too much, I would go insane.
Oh, like me.
Because I
Sure.
think I would second guess myself a lot. And I think what I'm trying to do and doing more of recently is, find the angle, to Jake's point, like my Disco Elysium mobile review wasn't a review. It was me talking about how the TikTokification of video games makes
Mm,
me spiral,
yeah.
and think about how because I mean, I think I've said this before, and I used to have a show on Giant Bomb with Tam and Bacala where we would talk about internet culture, and so I'm fascinated with internet culture. I genuinely think my sliding doors moment, if I didn't get into games, I would become some kind of social psychology researcher, in particular, perhaps like discovering like internet subcultures, um, and the fact that the way that the internet has ruined and warped how we interact with each other. And, we did not have brains that were supposed to be bombarded with this much information at all times.
Humans were not meant to podcast, right?
Humans were not meant to podcast, right?
That's right.
Yeah, sorry
But that,
everyone.
but so as I'm getting older, I realize that that intersects with my love of video games and my want and need to communicate with others and like connect with other
Mm,
people.
mm,
And
mm.
so I think maybe that's how I approach talking about video games. And I think from a I'm a friends with a lot of developers. I not to say that that influences me one way or the other, but I think it really got me to think about the way that games are made and this part of the reason why I really celebrate independent games and when AAA and AA do things that are very different is because there are going to be 1,000 people telling those people not to do that.
Mm.
And it is a miracle that a game is made at all anyway.
Yep.
And it is all of these people like I'm the type of person and you guys have like work with other people, but you are solo in certain aspects.
Yeah.
I am always of the belief it's like, and this is wrong, and it's something I'm trying not to do anymore, is that if I can't do it, no one else can. It has to be me. Someone else would have gotten it wrong, to quote Morden Solis, who's up there, right?
Hmm.
So imagine working on a project with hundreds of people, dozens of people, and like everyone is relying on everyone to get that thing out of the door. And
Mm.
it's like this, I don't know, yeah. And then you've got one shitlord in the C-suite telling them to put microtransactions and shit in. Um,
Sure.
I don't know. I just, to Jake's point, it is so nuanced how I approach and think about games. But then I have a certain type of game that I gravitate towards, and maybe that I wouldn't. And there are others that I certainly wouldn't play, but I know you two would, and I just like hearing what you think about it.
For sure.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
follow
it's
who you like.
follow who you
You know.
like, and I think yeah, give feedback as well though, because like we do
Hmm.
listen to it, and we're figuring this out as we
Yeah.
go. Like my approach to reviewing games has like changed a lot over the years, and it's always
Hmm.
about like that balance of what you listen to versus what you go. Okay, nah,
Hmm.
that's not for me. I just
Hmm.
gotta stay true to what I think and what I feel and what I feel. What I feel is right. I think that's kind of the guiding star for me as I go through this whole process. Like, it has to be led first and foremost by like what happened to me when I experienced this thing, right? That has
Hmm.
to be the leading question, and that's like Roger Ebert framed it that way is when he talked about the way he reviewed movies, right? It's like what happened to me, and he stole it from someone else,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
I think after that, if as long as you hit that hard, then you can then provide some packaging around it if you want to, right? But you got to hit that
Yeah.
thing hard. Really, that's the first, second, and
Yeah.
third thing.